This is accessibility part 1. I think it's really important, but if you have if you're prone to motion sickness or you're confused by very bright and buzzing colors, just look away for a second, because this is what it feels like when people come to a website that have this kind of impairment, and we want to avoid this noise for things. This is a book by Laura Kalbach, and I think it talks really well about how we should include everybody when we design web pages, and that a lot of people talking about that we improve our websites by looking exactly at those cases of people that have disabilities or impairment, because we all have some of them. Like, I mean, everybody, even on a train, is shaking, or if we're having bad connection issues or something. I'm getting into that. But there's a spot where you can really improve your website very easily. So what's the best user interface? Many people now say that maybe there's no interface would be the best interface to interact with the computer. A lot of them are now in voice, and you can see that between the generations there are large differences between how we are used to communicate with the computer and what we expect. But when it comes to designing websites for, let's say, blind people or other visually impaired people or older people, then there are a lot of excuses, because the people say that it's not a big wow effect. You don't. That's not a big buzzword in a boardroom. They say they don't have a means to track the data of how many people are using their websites with those disabilities. And then they say they are not trained to design websites like this, and they think it's too much work, which that could be true, but it doesn't matter, because you need to include everybody, because that's the point where you can actually improve it. And here is an architecture example, for example, where you can build a ramp that's both can be used by people that can walk the steps or people that need a ramp to get up there. So it's all about looking out for everybody and who we don't leave behind. Diversity comes from that, looking out for everybody and everybody's background. And if we want to improve that experience on the web, accessibility should be on the core of our responsive web design. For example, there have been strides to make a keyboard navigation that you can control with eyes, but even for those readers, we need to make sure that, see here, he's like moving his eyes to control the keyboard there. That's a plugin for the web. There's a lot of speech recognition now on the phone that we could use for people that can't type in information. There are screen magnifiers for people that have trouble reading it that small. So these are the types of disabilities and impairments. Going in this first part about the 4, like colorblindness, limited fine motor skills, that could also include that if you need to navigate this website hands-free while you're driving or while you're holding on in the subway, things like that. Dyslexia people, to make it clear where, to make the words just really easy to read as well. And people with motion sensitivity. These are plugins you can install on your computer that will mimic what it looks like when you're colorblind, and you can see the different colors and in this graphic how they change, so you can double check if your contrasts are high enough. And then, yeah, people with limited motor skills should still be able to navigate a website. Big enough buttons and things like that would be important for that. This is a whole new topic about dyslexia, but it includes spoken, reading, and spelling, writing, and pronunciation of words. Here is an example of a website. It's called Parallax, where you can see the backgrounds move at a slightly different speed from the foregrounds. You can see how it's sometimes overlapping, giving you that 3D effect, which is really cool and nice. And this one does it in a sort of not too overly a crazy nyan cat going through the screen at all times, where not everything is bouncing in. I call these like the bouncy castle designs, where every button somehow jumps into interactivity and tries to catch your attention. So this is part 1 of accessibility. Another one is coming.